Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a review of the Shimano Scorpion 2021 DC. This is the 151 HG for high gear ratio, and that's 7.4 to 1. So this thing turns 7.4 times for each revolution of the handle. And we're going to go over some of the great things about this reel and also some of the not so great things. And this is after 4 months of consistent use, mainly in the saltwater. So I've been fishing maybe 2 to 3 times a week using this reel, and it's all been saltwater. This reel has never seen fresh water. And let's see, first thing, the feel of this reel, it is pretty smooth. You can hear a little bit of rubbing sound as you reel, but overall it's pretty quiet. Once you're on the water, you don't hear anything. And it's nice and smooth, has good cranking power. The knob shape is nice. You can hold that easily. And it spins pretty freely. As for its looks, I personally think it's a pretty sharp reel. It has a little scorpion feature on the spool tension knob with red accents. I'm not super fond of the red accents just because my rod has blue accents, so it doesn't quite match. But the silver body with a little bit of metallic flake, it's nice. No problems there. As for the performance of this reel, now this comes with the Shimano IDC5 system. And so that means that you have 3 different line modes from fluorocarbon, mono, and braid. And within each of those line modes, you can change the setting from windy, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And that just corresponds to how much braking, with wind mode being the highest amount of braking and going down to 1 with the least amount of braking. And this DC system really does eliminate a lot of the bird's nest, tendency to bird's nest, or the spool to overrun during casting. You still have to stop it once the lure hits the water, like you would any other bait caster, but it really does help you be more efficient on the water because you're not worried about the reel, you're not worried about the wind. If you're casting directly into the wind, I've casted straight into 20-30 miles an hour of wind, no problem. Not even in the wind mode, I've been in 2 or 3 casting into high winds, and it still handles it. To crack that open, to change the line mode, you would change this dial to the open, and then flip this to open, and then it pulls right out. Now you can see the IDC5 system, and this white arrow here determines the line mode. F, fluorocarbon, nylon for monofilament, and P for braided line, polyethylene line. And you can use your finger nail to move the line selection. It's a little bit tough to get in there. And so I leave that on fluorocarbon because I generally use fluorocarbon line. Taking out the spool. You could see it's lightly ported. Okay, so we've gone over some of the great things about this reel. Now on to some of the cons. Now, I've owned this reel for approximately 4 months, and it has failed on me. One hard failure. After about 2 months of saltwater usage, I wasn't able to turn this handle. The main shaft inside of here had frozen at the bushing, so it was extremely difficult to turn. I don't know if that was a manufacturing error or if it was caused by saltwater corrosion, but either way, I had to break open the reel, diagnose the problem, and then fix that. So that's one thing that this reel did fail on me, but after that cleaning and maintenance, it seems to be back to normal. And another con to this reel is servicing. Because I had that problem, this is a JDM reel. So they don't sell these in the stores in the US, but you can get it on eBay or Amazon. I bought this on eBay for $200, which was a great deal, but I'm unable to service this in the US. So when I had that failure, I had no option to send it back to Shimano for service. I had to do my own servicing, and the same thing goes for replacement parts. In order to get replacement parts for this, you'll have to order it overseas, either Japan or Australia or someplace else. But you can't just go to a service station or order parts from Shimano USA. So those are the two biggest downsides, is serviceability and that frozen main shaft bearing or bushing. But would I recommend this reel? Even with that failure, I would definitely recommend this reel because you can still get these for $200 on eBay, with including shipping from Japan. And in order to get something similar with that same IDC5 system, I believe you would have to step up to a Metanium in the US, and that's going to cost twice as much as this. The nearest US competitor right now is the Corrosion DC, but that's going for $250 for the similar reel, and it still doesn't have the IDC5 system. It has the IDC4. So this is definitely a great reel and a value compared to what you can get for the same price in the US. Comparatively, you can get the Shimano SLX DC for about the same price as you can get this one. But in my opinion, I think the performance of this definitely outperforms the SLX DC, and for the same amount of money. So if you have the cash to spend $200, this is, I think, one of the great reels you can buy at this time, especially while the yen is sort of low compared to the dollar. And that is my review of the Shimano 2021 Scorpion DC. Thanks for watching. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to do a complete teardown and cleaning of the Shimano Scorpion DC. So first, we're going to open it. We'll put the external adjustment dial to open, flip open the knob here, and then pull straight out. And this is the DC module section. And you could pull the spool right out. Next, we're going to take apart the handle section. Small screwdriver. Okay, to take off the handle, we're going to use a 10mm nut. And since this is a left-hand reel, this is reverse thread, we're going to go right to loosen this nut. Now the handle comes off. Now the drag star. The spring. Try to keep these in sequential order. Let's see if we can get this nut out by hand. Yep. Again, going to the right to loosen. Now these two washers, you'll notice orientation, they are both bent, so there's a small gap in the middle. We'll keep those together so we don't change the orientation. And then a little washer. Now we're good to go on this side. Next, we'll remove these. Now you can see the main shaft bearing here. If you give it a little tap, it should come off. Notice there's another little washer there. So let's keep the washer down. Okay. Now we need to remove 4 screws. We've got silver. A black one. And this small screw here, now this is a different size than the other 2 black screws. Oops. Now, this side plate comes off. can pull the drag stack off. We'll clean that. Take these two springs and the yoke and the pinion gear off, and then wash those all with just a toothbrush and warm soapy water. Okay, using some Q-tips, we'll clean up some of this excess grease and oil. This piece comes out as well. You can see a little bit of staining. This is the anti-reverse bearing. You want to get these clean and dry, but I wouldn't necessarily put any oil. Try to clean this pinion bearing as best as you can. This is the first place that water will enter into the reel during normal usage. What happens is, once you start casting, the line will get soaked with seawater, salt water, and then you could see these holes, and then it will drip through these holes down the shaft, and this portion right here interfaces with your pinion, and then this all starts to get coated in seawater. So that's why this is going to be one of the weak points for any bait casting gear, used in saltwater especially. Also, it looks a little gross with this yellow grease because I've been using a yellow colored reel grease so it makes it look a little extra nasty when you're cleaning it out, sort of like your dirty earwax. Okay, to disassemble it further, we could remove the main shaft. There's 2 small screws. Once you remove those screws, this should pull out directly. And here we go. Clean this off a little bit. Now this is the part that failed on this reel that led me to full stoppage. I wasn't able to use the reel until it was fixed. So this blue part is a plastic bushing used so that the shaft can spin freely. In other models, this is probably a bearing, but this froze completely on the head of the main shaft. And let's take it down a little bit further. I'm going to use a small flathead to take off this E-clip. What you can do is find a little flathead that fits into this little crevice. We'll support it and turn. There, turning the screwdriver until that E-clip comes off. That releases everything. Note that little washer. Now, I believe this part is defective, because if you take a look, let's see if we could take a closer look at this. Notice the pitting and the unevenness here. I don't know if this broke when it froze. And this is, the metal is gone. Now it still functions, but I should probably have this replaced. Okay. Now from this point, the only thing left really is to clean up the worm drive in here, if you'd like. So there's 2 E-clips, one on each side of that. You would remove similarly to how we did that shaft, main shaft. And once those are free, you should be able to get most of that out. I'm not going to go into that at the moment. because I use this in mostly salt water, I ordered some new bearings from Hedgehog Studio in Japan. There's some instructions along with this note. They have a really good website, and it's in English, so it's not intimidating to use. But what I did is I ordered some corrosion resistant bearings for both this Shimano Scorpion DC as well as my SLX BFS. I've never used bearings from Hedgehog Studio before, but we shall try and see if it prevents some of the corrosion that we've seen previously in this reel. So, in your box, you get these exploded diagrams. Mine is the 151 HG left-handed model, and you'll notice some of the part numbers have a little circle around it, like that. Number 27, it means that it's a bearing, or number 22. And if you look in the parts list, you'll see there are numbers here in parentheses. This is the bearing size. So number 22 is an 8 by 12 by 3.5. Let's start replacing the bearings with corrosion resistant bearings. So the first one I'll get to is the pinion bearing here. Small screwdriver. Taking out these two screws. Yep, and we're able to lift this piece right out. Wipe it down. And be careful, there is a washer right under there. Okay. And this is the bearing we want to get to. Yucky. So that took some force to get out of its housing here. Let's see if we can do a quick inspection after 4 months of saltwater use of the pinion bearing. seems to still spin freely. And here are the replacements. Hopefully we'll get good performance out of these. So we'll replace it appears both sides are shielded, so I don't think it matters which way it's installed. Pops in. We'll reinstall. Okay. Guten Tag. Next, we have the pinion and the shaft bearing replaced. Now we need to get to the spool bearings. We'll start with the one behind the DC plate. So we have 3 screws here to get to. You can see the bearing hiding down below the DC module. Okay, I've loosened the 3 screws. Let's see if this pulls out. And it does. Maintaining. Inspect it while we're here. Looks like there's quite a bit of oil. Okay, so we'll pull this top section off of this bottom housing, remembering the orientation. Okay, now we will take our removal device to get this clip out. Pull one end. Oh my God. Almost lost it. And voila. This is our stock spool bearing. Looks to be in good condition. We'll clean up while we're here, because I really don't want to open this more than necessary. Now these bearings, .1030 Air HD. You'll notice there's an open end and a closed end of this bearing. So it's recommended to install it with the open end away from the spool. So that way it's the most protected. And it says we don't have to oil it prior. So I will insert the new bearing. We will put in our washer and retaining clip. Hopefully we don't shoot this to the moon. Good. Still have our orientation correct. Here. We'll fit this back in. Now we screw it in. Good and tight. You can see our new bearing right in there, covered by the washer. Okay, I think that was the hard one. Set that aside for now, and we'll get to the two on the other side. Scorpion. So clean up while we're here. Okay. Now we'll use our retaining clip removal device, aka tweezers. Will maintain control of it better than last time. All right. Now we have our bearings free. I'll use my bearing puller device, aka paper clip. Remove the stock bearing. And while we're here, let's clean up this housing area. device. Oh gosh. There we go. Bearing puller device success. Cleaning. Now we have access to our final see if the bearing puller device is going to work again. And it feels I may have to use a little more force to get this guy out. Don't try at home. Ah. We got it. Okay, and that was it. Now we just need to put in our new bearings. Let's see if we can gently place this guy in here, your new home. Needs to go a little deeper. Bearing pusher device, followed by bushing, went in easily, followed by our air HD, keeping the shielded side towards the spool. Followed by our retaining clip. Using our retaining clip removal device. Let's get in there. Whew, we made it. Cap back on. Let's see our new bearings. Now, reassembly. We've got our main shaft back together. I'm using Ardent Real Butter grease. I'm not sure if it's the best, but it works. The yellow is a little bit, well, it makes it so you can see how old the grease is, because it turns brown over time. Put a little grease there, and then insert him into his home. Go in your home. Okay, next, let's check the drag stack in the main gear. Each of these components, I am going to lightly grease. This portion here kicks the spool. So when you're casting, it's free spooling, and then it will move this portion out and lock the spool again. Our first drag washer. Light application. Our main gear. Second drag washer. And this piece. Good. Now our pinion gear. I like to put a coating of grease around this portion, because this is the first place salt water will get into your reel. Okay. Now we'll go around the gear teeth with some grease. Our springs on the yoke. And while we're here, we'll add a little grease to some of the contact portions here, where let's not forget about this guy. Let's put a drop of real oil down the shaft to lubricate. Although I want to keep this a little bit dry on the outside. I don't want the anti-reverse getting gummed up. Okay. Now recall our silver screw goes there at the top. And our final screw. Yep, there we go. Our anti-reverse is working. It's only turning one way. Now let's assemble the handle portion. Recall that washer first. Oh dear. Okay. Our new bearing. One more washer. These two. That gap in the middle. Washer at the bottom. Lefty tighty. Lefty tighty. Spring. Drag star. There we go. Holding it down. Our handle. 10mm nut. Lefty tighty. Tight enough, and then you want a point of the nut facing that hole so that this falls into place. A retention screw here. And we are there, folks. We are there. We'll add a little bit of grease here in the worm gear while we're here. Now for our spool, we'll add a little bit of oil. Add a little bit of this this is bearing lube. We'll just put a drop here on one end and a drop on the other. Our braking module. it drops. Now we have brand new bearings. Seems nice. Seems nice. Our reel is functioning. Let's set our spool tension. So it just ticks with the spool released. Okay, that's about good. The DC will take care of the rest. Ooh, I like that. Now we shall see if these new bearings are worth it. All right, guys, thanks for watching.